Look closely at this face. A 17-year-old American high school girl. Innocent look, bright smile, an ordinary teenager next door. But what if I told you that behind this smile lies a cold, calculating mind capable of the unthinkable? In February 2025, a horrific tragedy shook a quiet neighborhood in Georgia. A mother and a stepfather were brutally executed in their own bed. The crime scene was chaotic, but the reaction of their teenage daughter, Sarah, was even more disturbing. For 5 long months, Sarah played the role of a grieving, heartbroken daughter. She posted crying videos on TikTok. She stood before a crowd at the funeral, shedding tears. She even reached out to famous true crime creators, asking them to cover her parents' murder, calling it a guaranteed hit. She wanted the spotlight, but she didn't realize that the spotlight would eventually expose her. When the police finally put handcuffs on her, criminologists noticed a chilling phenomenon on her face. Experts call it Duper's delight. It is a subtle, subconscious micro-expression, a brief, involuntary smile that appears when a psychopath experiences a surge of dopamine, believing they have successfully fooled everyone around them. It is the ultimate slip of the mask of sanity. Welcome back to Behind the Lie. Today, we are dissecting the terrifying psychology of Sarah Grace Patrick. How did a teenage girl manipulate the media? What dark secrets did her TikTok archive hide? And why is the entire United States waiting for her final trial this August? Let's look behind the lie. On the morning of February 20, 2025, a terrifying emergency call disrupted the quiet of Carroll County, Georgia. On the line was 16-year-old Sarah, her voice trembling, reporting that her mother, Kristen, and stepfather, James, were unresponsive in their bed. When first responders arrived, they walked into a bloodbath. Both victims had been executed at close range. But it wasn't Sarah who first discovered the bodies. It was her 5-year-old little sister, whom Sarah had deliberately sent into the bedroom to wake mommy up. Let's analyze this through the lens of forensic psychology. This is a tactical maneuver known as alibi construction by proxy. Why would a genuinely traumatized teenager send a toddler into a dark, silent room instead of checking herself? Analysts suggest this was Sarah's calculated attempt to ensure she wouldn't be the one with primary gunshot residue or immediate biological evidence on her clothes. Furthermore, it created a shield of emotional distraction, using her sister's genuine trauma to mask her own lack of empathy. When investigators first interacted with Sarah, they noted a profound case of incongruent affect, a complete mismatch between her physical behavior and her verbal narrative. While her voice attempted a performance of hyperventilation during the emergency call, her subsequent baseline physiology told a different story. Look at her behavior captured later during her preliminary court hearings. No autonomic nervous system responses, no trembling, no pale skin. Her eyes weren't cast down in grief. They were cold, calculated, and actively scanning the room, practicing what profiling calls audience monitoring. She wasn't processing trauma, she was assessing the courtroom, measuring the impact of her presence, and tracking how the audience perceived her. For the next 5 months, Sarah Grace Patrick didn't just hide, she weaponized her grief. To her church and school community, she projected the archetype of the devout, broken orphan. But behind closed doors, a process called malingering was taking place, the intentional fabrication of severe psychological symptoms for personal gain. Sarah's main stage was TikTok, where she meticulously curated her mourning. But a closer look at her videos reveals a psychological phenomenon known as embodied leakage. When a person fakes sadness, the micromuscles of the face, specifically the corrugator supercilii which pull the eyebrows up and together, cannot be easily controlled. Sarah's eyebrows remained flat. Her tears only flowed when the camera angle was perfect. It was a simulation of grief. And then, the darker side of her psychopathy emerged, the duping reward. This is the internal thrill a sociopath experiences from pulling off a massive lie. Sarah began targeting true crime content creators. Her emails and direct messages didn't look for answers. They displayed a chilling commodification of trauma. She talked about her parents' execution as a marketable asset, telling influencers it would be a guaranteed big hit for their views. She wasn't seeking justice for her parents. She was seeking a dark, narcissistic celebrity status, treating her family's blood as her stepping stone to fame. But every narcissistic criminal falls victim to the same flaw, the hubris syndrome, an overinflated belief in one's own intellectual superiority that leads to sloppy mistakes. While Sarah was busy monitoring her video metrics, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office was analyzing forensic data. There was no forced entry. The family dog, trained to bark at strangers, was silent that night. The killer possessed intimate knowledge of where the weapon was secured. Everything pointed to an insider threat. When digital forensics extracted her phone data in July 2025, the cognitive dissonance of Sarah's life collapsed. Behind the religious, grieving internet persona lay a search history filled with cold queries about lethal forensic countermeasures and deleted coordinates. On July 8th, realizing her narrative had failed, Sarah surrendered. Look at her booking photograph. In individuals with high psychopathic traits, the threat of punishment doesn't trigger the standard sympathetic fight-or-flight response. Where an innocent teenager would exhibit dilated pupils, skin pallor, and facial collapse from terror, Sarah exhibits asymmetrical contempt. Notice the unilateral elevation of her left lip corner. In the taxonomy of human microexpressions, this specific movement signifies a feeling of intellectual superiority and moral disdain. Even in handcuffs, her facial muscles betrayed her internal monologue. "You caught me, but you still aren't smarter than me." Today, Sarah Grace Patrick is held in adult solitary confinement at the Carroll County Jail, isolated from the general population. Her defense apparatus has successfully utilized a tactical delay, pushing her final trial to August 3, 2026, to conduct a comprehensive forensic neuropsychological evaluation. They are hunting for a psychiatric diagnosis that might explain her profound lack of affect. The psychological damage to the family has left them completely polarized. Some relatives have filed for protective orders, citing an absolute terror of what Sarah is capable of. Meanwhile, her biological father remains locked in a state of traumatic denial, publicly insisting the state's digital evidence is purely circumstantial. The countdown is now ending. On August 3, 2026, the courtroom doors will open, and the prosecution will lay bare the unredacted digital archive. But the most terrifying questions remain unanswered. What did Sarah do in that house during the dark, silent hours before she dialed emergency services? What hidden psychopathology did the court psychologist uncover in her sealed evaluation that caused the judge to delay the trial? And what happens when a covert narcissist is stripped of her internet audience and forced to face a jury? The answers are buried inside the upcoming court transcripts, and they will shatter everything you think you know about teenage psychology. In Part 2, we are stepping directly into the courtroom. We will perform a real-time behavioral analysis of Sarah under cross-examination, decode the secret psychiatric reports, and watch the exact second her mask completely disintegrates. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and leave your analysis below. Are we looking at a deeply sick individual or a cold, calculated predator? Thank you for watching Behind the Lie. Stay vigilant.